presented by Independence Blue Cross. A weekly recap of your Philadelphia Flyers from blue line to blue line. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's, tonight's show is brought to you by Hand and Stone Spa, Pat Dion Beverages, The Capitol Grill, Chickies and Pete's, Payroll Service Solutions, and Independence Blue Cross. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Now, here are your hosts, former Flyer Brad Marsh and Paul Jolovitz.
And thank you, Matty Miro, and welcome to the beautiful Chickies and Pete's here in Marlton, New Jersey, Route 73. Big, lively place, lots of people, lots of TVs. We know there'll be lots of people here Sunday. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. This is Independence Blue Cross On the Ice with Brad Marsh. How are you, Brad?
Doing great. How are you doing, buddy?
Very well. And unfortunately, our guest tonight, I try to make it every week that I'm one of the two top defensemen on the show. I think that's going to be hard to do this week because the greatest defenseman in Flyer history is here with us, and you were a great defenseman, and I was not. But the greatest defenseman in Flyer history in the Hockey Hall of Fame, Mr. Mark Howe. Pleasure to have you here, Mark.
Hey, pleasure to be on the show again.
It's always wonderful. Flyers have been not so good the last week. Shut out in 3 straight games. Lost last night in Utah. Made a big deal, guys. Either one of you can start with this, but the Farabee deal for us, a lot of people thought it was to take the Farabee's salary off the books. The 2 kids aren't in here with the visas. Are they kicking salary forward? What did you think of this deal, Brad, first?
I don't know. It's hard to say. We all knew something was going to happen, and I don't really know anything about the players that we got in return because I don't really watch the game or the other teams and so on. I watch our games, our team, and so I don't know much about them. So I can't say it was a great trade. It was this trade. It was this trade. But what I can say is if you look at the Flyer lineup and both those players, they were drafted. They showed a lot of promise, and there was a lot expected of them. But I really think moving forward as they retool the team, that we weren't really going to win with them. We needed something else in that dressing or something else and that's no disrespect because I hope they go to Calgary and it's a fresh start for both of them.
They both scored already.
Yeah, and they do well, et cetera, et cetera. But the makeup of our team at this time, at this point, was not going to, we weren't going to win with them.
Mark, you were a pro scout for the Red Wings for a long time after you retired from hockey, and now you've retired from scouting. I'm sure you saw Kuzmenko and Pelletier play or know about them if you didn't. You know anything about these guys?
No, I didn't know them, but as far as the trade goes, because the years that I worked in Detroit, I was in that front office, and when you build a plan for the future and for your team, there's certain things that come along with that, and some of that is trying to identify who 4, 5, 6 years down the road do you want to be part of that team. And you're not building a team to just make the playoffs. You're building a team that hopefully will have the potential to win a Stanley Cup. And I think that the move and when you draft a first-round pick, or if you get a first-round pick, I think the percentage of that player playing significant time in the NHL is somewhere around 60%. When you get to the second-round pick, you're down to like 20 to 30%.
That's one game in the NHL, or
well, that's maybe like 50 games.
Okay.
So anytime you can get first and second-round picks, you got a fairly decent shot at getting a player that can help and hopefully potentially grow and get better once they become a pro. I think one of the picks they got was a second-round pick. I know last year when they made some trades, they got some first-round picks, and those are the guys that you draft them. 2 years later, you hope they're in your organization. 2-3 years after that, then you hope now they all come together and with what they already have. And I'm sure it's and I believe in with Danny and Jonesy and they do have. They have a game plan of what they want to do, and they're trying to carry it out, and I'm sure this is part of their plan.
Your father, I believe, played hockey. I looked it up. Gordy, something like that. When you came into hockey, Mark, you were a left wing. These 2 kids, Pelletier and Kuzmenko, are both left wings. You got shifted to defense, which you had never played think that worked out pretty well. Did that surprise you when you came in as a left wing? You played with Marty, your brother, your father in the WHA. Then you came to the Flyers. Did you ever think of playing defense? Did you ever play it as a kid?
Very little. I always played the power play on the teams I played with, and I'd be on the blue line on the power play. So you do face a little bit that way. My last year in Houston, in the WHA, we only had 25 players under contract, and teams just couldn't afford more than that. And we had a number of injuries, and we had about a 30-game stint where we had a lot of guys out. So they threw me back on defense for about 30 games. And somebody pointed out to me, about a month ago, that I had I think 50 points in 30 games as a defenseman. But even like I said, I only really played defense for I had about a year and a half under my belt before I came to the Flyers. And I always think the guy who helped me out the most ever in my career was Eddie Van Impe. He used to come on the ice with us, and he actually taught me how to play defense, how to think the game as a defenseman, which made me much better defensively. So instead of using up all your energy trying to defend and make up for the mistakes that I made, now you're in the right position, you're in the right spot, and now you can go, and now all your energy is saved to try to help create offense. So that's where he helped me the most.
Did he teach you how that cross-checking that he had down on Karmelov in the Russian game?
Yeah, well, all I know, I said anytime anybody went near the net with him and Moose Tupon killing penalties, I said the player left probably 3 or 4 inches shorter. That part I didn't. He could have taught all he wanted. I wasn't going to learn it.
Yeah. You learned something because you were plus 85 one year with Brad McCrimmon. You played 4 defense, Brad, a lot with Mike Keenan. You and Doug Crossman, then Mark and Brad. I was looking you up, by the way. I think it was Howie was plus 85. What was Brad Marsh highest? Do you know what your highest plus minus? What would you guess?
Oh, I don't know. You tell me. You're the Cracker Jack sports reporter.
All I can do is read. Just take a wild guess. You were plus what in your best year?
I have no idea.
41.
There you go.
It's pretty good.
But I always say, like, playing 4D was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Only if you're one of the 4D.
Yeah, I know.
If you're the 5th and 6th guy, it really did stink. But it was wonderful, and I was very fortunate to be on that team and have Mike have the confidence in me to play that many minutes. And it was really cool because, if you look at, even Brad, when he came from Boston, he had a lot to learn, and he learned a lot by playing with you. But he was one of those players, same as me, that really flourished under Mike Keenan. And if you look at me as an individual and Cross as an individual, and Beast, that was Brad, that's what we called him. We meshed together. Like, me and Doug we were good defensemen, but together we were a very good pair. Yeah. And you and Beast, I don't know if Beast would have played with someone else. I think he still would be a good defenseman, but you guys just meshed, and it was awesome. And to see, Brad was one of the first, and people don't realize it, he was one of the first D to play his offside. He was a left-handed shot. He played on the right side, and he really, really adapted to that. And you wouldn't think it was that big a deal.
Oh, on the off wing. I thought he meant he was offsides all the time.
Yeah. No. Yeah, he played his off. He left-hand shot. He played the right D.
Yep.
And that is a huge adjustment, and people don't realize how big of an adjustment. I think it's easy for a forward to play left wing or right wing and shoot the wrong way, but it is a huge adjustment playing one-on-ones and so on and so on. So Beast and Brad were fabulous, but I think they were more fabulous because of the chemistry and so on.
Yeah, well, that and as you were saying, I said it was so much more fun where you go out, you play your shift, you're on the bench long enough to get your breath, maybe 15, 20 seconds, and then you just wait. And so Brad and I were always, every time I come off the ice, all I had to do is watch Brad. As soon as Brad's coming to the bench, boom, I'm back on. So you never had time. You didn't have to think. And I said, when you're like at the end of my career, I was the extra guy, a couple games, and sitting out and watching and maybe getting 15, 16 minutes. And I go, there's a lot of time on that bench to sit. And I go, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So, yeah, much better.
It's awful
when you're out there.
You told me something about 25 years ago, Mark. I've asked you this before. I'm just so astounded at your response, I got to ask you again. We were sitting at Philadelphia Country Cricket Club, at a Flyer golf tournament, and I got in my mind to ask the stupid question to you, do you think you're a Hall of Famer? You retired in 95 with back problems. This is probably 2000. And you replied, no. One word, no. And I was kind of surprised, obviously not self-promoter. I said, you don't think you're a Hall of Famer? And you were honest. You said, I know I was a really good player, but I don't think I was that. I said, well, I think you were, and I think you're going to make it. The other people at the table as well. How good do you think you were?
Well, good enough to fool some people, I guess. I don't know.
But the thing is I'll jump in. Sorry, after I think, and I don't know a lot of Hall of Famers. Obviously, the Wayne Gretzky and the really, really upper echelon, like they were destined for stardom and all the accolades that they earned and got. But I think there's a lot of players that just loved playing the game, and they never really thought of in terms, well, if I do this, I'll get to the Hall of Fame. All you want to do is play hockey, and all he wanted to do was be good at playing hockey, and that never really. I
never met a player who said, as a kid, say, "Oh, I'm going to score the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup Finals." I mean, like, yeah, you're going to. Everybody's goal is to win the Stanley Cup, so you like. The thought never once entered my mind of, I'm going to make it in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but this was after you retired.
Oh, I know. But that's just a byproduct of what you do and what you do with passion and what you do. You have fun. We all had fun at it.
I know a good friend of mine who was on the cusp, should he be in or shouldn't, and he's quite often asked, he says, well, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
He's not losing any sleep over it.
Yeah, and that's why I was.
Who are you talking about?
Well, I don't want to say.
Yeah.
What does he think? Mentioning it will lessen his chances or something?
No.
All right.
I think there's a lot of guys like that, and to this day, I think the only reason I got in is because Scotty Bowman. Scotty Bowman was on the Hall of Fame committee, and for some reason, Scotty decided he thought I was a good enough player to get in. And
have you taken a look at your numbers, by the way? I don't know. You were pretty good.
But there's a lot more to the game than numbers.
And you were better without the numbers. You played the right way. You did the right thing. You're humble. It's not like somebody that scores 88 goals like Ovechkin, but you think he didn't do anything. You do more than the numbers say, so it only helps you.
Yeah, but like I say, you just go out and you play. I was raised by two parents that were all about family, all about team, and there was no me in it, and I got that right away. And one of the reasons when I got that, because I had a no-trade contract, but one of the teams I wanted to get traded to, I gave a list of 4 teams. One of them was the Flyers, because I knew it was all about team. And I said, I don't like playing on...
what were the other 3 teams, if you don't mind me asking?
Boston, the Rangers, and the Islanders.
I'm glad you weren't on them teams.
So they were...
Because I would have had to play against you.
Yeah,
they were all in our division.
And the Flyers. So I felt they were the 4 best teams. And it was as a kid growing up, the teams that I was a part of, we won the national championship every single year. Every year.
The national championship?
Yeah, whatever, whether you're 10 years old, 12 years old, 15, Tier 2 junior hockey, we won the national championship in the U.S. every year. Won a silver medal in the Olympics. That's the only time I finished second.
And how old were you when you won the Olympics?
I was 16. Then I go to Toronto. We won the Memorial Cup. We won the championship there. I go to Houston. We won the first 2 championships the same 2 years that the Flyers won the Stanley Cup. And then the next year we lost in the finals. So that was really like the first time I'd lost. And then when I was in Hartford, unfortunately things were kind of going downhill quick. And you like to win, but I hate to lose. I flat out hated it, and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't have fun, and things kind of worked. And I said, I'm going to a good hockey club. I'm going to a good organization that wins consistently, and because that's the only way to play this game is to have a chance to be able to compete for a championship every year.
I think the one thing that Howie said, like he won at various levels, and not everyone gets that chance to win that often, but to me, a part of scouting and picking the right player for your franchise or your team has to be some of the background information on him. And if a kid is a winner, he's a winner, and that's contagious. You understand what it's like to win, and you want him or those type of players in your dressing room. And so, to me, when it comes down, and let's say there is a tie, and take this guy or take this guy, and they both have the same skill set. And one guy has never won anything. He's just been an individual on a team. you got to pick the guy that has that's held a championship trophy, because I don't care. Winning's winning, and I don't care where you win, how you win, or how old you are when you win. It's contagious when you're sitting in the dressing room.
All right, so we're talking about winning. We got to take a break in a second. We got time for this. Brad, I know you've talked about this a lot. Mark, I'm sure you just mentioned it about winning and winning at every level. Flyers have not won anything for a long time. Haven't won a playoff series for a while, won in the bubble. But how important is it? The Flyers are kind of straddling that playoff, wild card line, the Wallenda line. They just made a deal, not going in the right direction right now. But how important is it for the fans of this team and the team to at least get a taste of the playoffs in some way?
Well, there's a couple things. One is, in the way the system is now, you have to be bad enough to get a good draft pick.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it's an 82 game ride to get to that point. But yeah, you have to go through that. And then the other part is, when you do get to the draft and lottery, you have to be lucky. I mean, I look at the Detroit Red Wings. I always said for years, poor Arizona. Every year, I think they went 3 years. They were definitely the worst team in the National Hockey League. And every year they went to the lottery, they lost every year. So Detroit, like I said, they had 4 years in a row. The worst you could do is -3 every year. And they were -10 in 4 years. So like there was only 2 picks that could have been worse. So that greatly impacts the caliber of player that you're going to get. So not only, and then plus, you have to be bad, and you got to win the lottery on a year when there's a Connor McDavid.
Pittsburgh's
Austin
not
Matthews.
Pittsburgh if they don't win the lottery for Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
Well, anybody, Ovechkin,
That's where, and those are franchise changers, those guys.
Well, the thing is you mentioned it's important to get to the playoffs. I say yes for a number of reasons, and one is
Can we hold it till afterwards? You got to take.
I'm going to forget.
You don't forget. We will remind Mr. Marsh about his statement about winning and about the playoffs. We're at Chickies and Pete's in Marlton. This is Independence Blue Cross on the Ice, where you can catch us on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM. And we're seen live on YouTube at WBCB Sports. People coming down and saying hi to Mark and Brad. We'll say hi to you after this. Stay with us.
Blow the whistle. Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. There's only one official sports bar of your Philadelphia Eagles, and that's Chickies and Pete's. Ready for the big game? Go where the players go. Don't wait. Reserve your table right now for the big game for all of our locations at chickiesandpete's.com. The best in-game experience anywhere. Be the MVP of your big game with Chickie and Pete's to-go catering. The Eagles are in the big game. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
The holidays for me represent another year to celebrate with my family.
I'm thankful for the Prostate Cancer Foundation, for my family, for my doctors.
This holiday season, put talking with your doctor about prostate screening at the top of your list. Want more info? The Prostate Cancer Foundation is a trusted resource and community. Go to pcf.org to learn more today. Remember, it's your life.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
And we are back here at Chickies and Pete's, and if you're wondering, there's another game Sunday in another sport called football that you might be aware of. Super Sunday here at Chickies and Pete's. You can come to the door. It's $40 to get in. You get a gift card for $40, so you're net out at nothing. There's a million TVs, a million great things to do. Atmosphere is amazing. Come and watch the game at Chickies and Pete's. $40, get a $40 gift card, and have a great time here at Chickies and Pete's in Marlton. It's now time for the Independence Blue Cross Live Fearless Player of the Week. Not the greatest week in Flyer history. Set out 3 straight games. This week it's Sam Urson, who played the best I've ever seen him play, John Tortorella said last night, despite losing on a goal in the last second of overtime. Remember to choose Independence Blue Cross today and begin to live fearless. One of my fearless defensemen is Brad Marsh, the other our guest Mark Howe, and Mr. Marsh has the floor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, we were talking before about the playoffs. You asked how important it is, and you've asked that question before.
Yep.
And I've always answered, to me, it's part of the whole rebuild, and part of the rebuild is having the young players taste some success. And so it would be great for our players to taste some of that success. But Howie touched on a point before he went to break about when he was in Hartford, he had a list and he picked 4 teams. He wanted to go to a winning organization and a winning team. And so for us, part of the rebuild is attracting people, free agents and players that want to come here. So you have to have a solid team, a solid foundation, and yes, a winning formula. We haven't had that in a long time. So it's very important for us to make that next step, whether it's this year or next year, in order to attract that superstar player, that solid player that wants to come here to Philadelphia.
All right, you got to find people that want to come here, but you got to find them first. And that's what you did for a long time, Mark, with the Red Wings. I used to see up in
That's a good segue.
Yeah.
That's a great segue, man.
No, you need to build your core. You can't build a team with free agents. So you need to build your core with your young draft picks, good character people, and then once the timing's right, boom, then you go out. Now those free agents are going to want to come.
But not just free agents. It's what you do. And Flyers have 3 first-round picks, 4 second-round picks this year as of now. The pro scouts are the people that let the bosses know. Here's so-and-so, so-and-so. So-and-so may be available for that. You guys are probably, the pro scouts are probably the key to the trade deadline for every team.
I think the amateur scouts are the biggest.
That's
most
for the draft.
I think they're the most. No. Well, they're part of making decisions when you do make trades. So if you can trade this guy, and they say, you get me a second round for that player. Yeah, you do it because I'm going to get a good player in the second round. So if you got strong players going, say from 10 to 50, with a real deep draft class, then you have a chance of getting a pretty good player. So then you do it. But if they there's maybe 20 kids in the draft, and after that it's a crapshoot, it's a bad draft year. You're better off sticking with what you got. So those are, but the drafting. But the amateur guys are very much a part of trade decisions and all that as well.
So you were part of a couple Stanley Cups, not as a player, but with the Red Wings, and you were, the trade deadline. I can't remember off the top of my head the deals the Red Wings made in those years to get whoever, but you would follow people. And what kind of pressure cooker is that? As the deadline gets closer, everybody's pretty much going for the same guys. It's up to you to tell.
No, it's actually easy. You pick the guy that the coach is gonna like. Because if the coach doesn't like him, he's not playing. So it doesn't matter how good that player is. So I remember probably the best pickup we had was '97 when the Red Wings beat the Flyers in the finals. Nobody wanted Larry Murphy. Every time he got near the puck in Toronto, you got 18,000 people, couldn't have booed any louder. And he was slow, but he was always slow. But he was so highly intelligent. His hockey IQ was off the charts.
Won 4 Stanley Cups.
And we were a puck possession team in Detroit. And Larry Murphy And I always used, back before they did analytics, I used to track defensemen whenever they touched the puck under pressure, not, just with a lot of time. Anytime they had the puck under pressure, what team had the puck after he had that puck on his stick? And with Larry Murphy, I think the percentages were like 85%. If he saw there was no play to be made, he'd flip it and get it out of his zone. He made a smart play. But it was tape to tape. Now, there were some other guys that played in the league that were really good hockey players, and I would gladly have them on my team, but they didn't fit the structure of our team at that time and the way the Red Wings played the game and the way Scotty Bowman coached the game. So even though I like that player, you don't recommend that player.
Well, Larry Murphy, all he did was he's your teammate now in the Hall of Fame. And I think, in my personal opinion, not that this matters at all, Larry Murphy's the most underrated defenseman ever, in my opinion. And Ron Francis, the most underrated forward. But you guys, it's great that you emphasize team. It's in the Flyer locker room. You don't play for the emblem or the name on the back. You play for this logo on the front. How hard is it, Brad? You were like that. Mark's like that. You see, guys, I hate to bring it up again, Ovechkin, but obviously a great player. But you value team more than anything. Are there players in the sport today that don't get as much out of themselves? I mean, there are obviously some, but any noteworthy ones other than Ovechkin that you can think of?
Not off the top of my head, but I think the era that we played and playing the junior hockey and playing, that was the mentality back there, that it was team first. And I think with free agent, in all the sports, I think that was the mentality. You loved the team, you loved the logo, you loved everything about the team that you played for, and you would give anything for to help that team win. But I think with free agency and so on, the player movement, I think that the team, the love affair with the team is not the same as it once was. And that's not a knock against the current player. We didn't grow up in that era. That's just how it was when we played.
Yeah.
You agree with that, Mark?
Yeah, so the big trade in basketball, everybody was shocked about it. So I was at home and talking with the caregiver. I said, everybody that played in our area, you come in, you're loyal to that team. You fall in love with that. That team drafted you, you're there, and this and that. And then all of a sudden you get traded. Well, it's heartbreaking. It's difficult. People move on a lot quicker nowadays, and I don't think there's as much loyalty either way. And so much of the game now is driven by salary cap, where teams have to get rid of players just because they can't fit the numbers in.
All right, now the
Flyers. So you're forced your hand is forced sometimes, yeah.
And Danny Briere and Keith Jones, we'll see what they do. Danny does coming up to the trade deadline. Got a pretty good team. Have some flaws, obviously, that they need to fix. But the defense, a lot of people say you build from the goal out, the defense. Flyers are building, guys, a pretty nice young defense. I'm not sure there's a Mark Howe in that defensive core, but Cam York and Travis Sanheim has always played great, been playing the Four Nations Cup. Ristolainen's had a great bounce-back year, could be a candidate to move at the deadline. Drysdale, some young kids. What do you think of the Flyers' defense, Brad, as it stands right now?
Well, you're right. The names that you're talking about, Sanheim, the last 2 years he's been lights out, and he's played very well, and he's still young, and where's the ceiling for him? Ristolainen, Ristolainen, he's had an unbelievable year. He had some injury problems last year, and then the first year that he was here, it was very questionable. A lot of people questioned his contract. A lot of people questioned his defensive ability.
Now everybody loves the contract, by the way.
Yeah, but he's played very, very well, and we're just waiting for the other parts to blossom into what their resume was when they were drafted. I think there's still, I don't want to say a question mark on them, because they're all working hard. They're all playing their best that they can play at this time. But we want to see what's the upside in some of these young players that we have, and until they make a decision on what their upside can be, I think there's always going to be room to improve our defense.
Mark Emil Andres, 22, from Sweden, seen as a minor leaguer. I see him as different, and it looks like the Flyers are a little bit as well. Cam York, there's a lot of pressure on him, first-round pick. Do you see any of these guys, obviously not becoming an all-time great, but anybody becoming a Sanheim? Because Sanheim wasn't great after he was drafted. He was a late bloomer.
I saw him play a lot in Lehigh. Saw him a little bit in Philly. And you could see the upside. Like he was out of his element actually.
You're talking about Andre, right?
Huh?
You're talking Andre?
No, Sanheim.
Sanheim.
When he was there, and you could see. It's just then the question is you have to keep developing. You can't ever stop. And once you stop, once you hit that, once you level off, then you're kind of done. But as far as building a team, go back in the last 20, 25 years of Stanley Cup teams. Just name some of the defensemen on those teams. You're not winning unless you have a solid defense.
Nope.
And you got to be able to rock and roll 3 or 4 guys that are just big-time gamers at a minimum. You look at, Tampa Bay was knocking on the door for years, and that was it. Then they finally went out. They had 5 guys that were probably top 2 defensemen on every other team in the league, and they were all 220 pounds and 230 and mobile.
Yeah,
and
we need to get bigger.
Oh, yeah. So you need – and I don't think you can win without it. I really don't. You maybe have the potential, but it's hard to just outscore people when you get to the finals. You look at Vegas. So they went to the final the first year. They met Washington, and within 2-3 minutes, 2 or 3 shifts, they knew they weren't big enough because Wilson's running around and ran over every defenseman they had. So they went to the finals, and within 2 years, they retooled their entire defense. And so then and then when they brought in Pietrangelo, they had a bona fide number 1. And once you get the bona fide number 1, then everybody else gets slotted in the perfect spot. Even Ekblad in Florida. A lot of people didn't like him as a number 1. They bring in somebody. Well, he was a shutdown defenseman and did his job. Yep. And that's part of the reason. But their defensive core was just much better than they had been in the past.
The formula for winning the Stanley Cup, nobody knows what it is, but the Flyers are trying to accomplish it. Probably not going to happen this year, to be honest, but it could. You never know. That's the magic of sports. We'll continue to look at the Flyers. There's also something coming up. Flyers play home Thursday and Saturday, and then the Four Nations Cup kicks in. We'll talk about that. If you have no idea what we're talking about, you're probably not listening to the show, but if you do, we'll get it to you. Four Nations Cup, much, much more with Brad Marsh and Mark Howe from Chickies and Pete's in Marlton. Back right after this. Stay with us.
Blow the whistle. Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. There's only one official sports bar of your Philadelphia Eagles, and that's Chickies and Pete's. Ready for the big game? Go where the players go. Don't wait. Reserve your table right now for the big game for all of our locations at chickiesandpete's.com. The best in-game experience anywhere. Be the MVP of your big game with Chickie and Pete's to-go catering. The Eagles are in the big game. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3, serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1957. You can now listen to all your WBCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
And it must be time now at the halfway point for the Smart Stat of the Week, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY. Rodrigo Abels, a lot of guys up from the minors. Flyers in a little bit of a transitionary phase after this deal. He's played pretty well. First period goal last night broke a scoreless streak of 182 minutes and 17 seconds for the Flyers, the second longest streak in their history. Wound up losing 3-2 anyway, but at least they're off the schneid. That was your Flyers Smart Stat of the Week, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them again today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. Payroll Service Solutions, catering to the small and medium-sized business to handle all of your payroll needs. Call them again today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. After Saturday, guys, 2-week break in the NHL. A lot of people are glad. A lot of people aren't glad because the schedules are kind of compacted. The best on best tournaments. I know you guys both played in these things. How excited are you about this? The four nations, in case you're wondering, Sweden, Finland, Canada, and the United States.
Well, seriously, I'm more interested about the game that's going to be played on Sunday, but the one
we'll talk about that.
I know, I tend not to watch hockey as much because I watched so many games for so many years. And I love the playoffs where the games get a little more intense. But this time of year, I really don't like watching TV a lot. I'd rather be outdoors doing things, being active, and that's more what my life is about. I was 49 years in hockey, professional hockey, and I think I averaged scouting 150, 155 games every year, and I just got burned out. So when I do see it, it's not very often.
All right, well, Brad, this is a big tournament. I know you watch hockey a little bit. U.S. and Canada playing a couple Saturday nights from now. That's going to paralyze the country of Canada in a good way. What do you think about this tournament? Who wins?
Well, I don't know who's going to win because it's four great nations, but whenever you have best on best, it's going to be exciting hockey. It's going to be good for the sport. There's a lot of debate whether they should be shutting down the season for a Four Nations Cup when, all the hockey nations aren't there. I don't know, and I'm not going to really get into the debate. I know when I do sit down in front of the TV and it's best on best, it's going to be great TV. But let's be honest. We need to have Canada and USA in the finals for it to really hit a home run and really help grow the game of hockey in North America. If it's Sweden and Finland, no one's going to watch it.
Yeah. Well, not here. Well, over there, they'll be over there.
Oh, over there.
Yeah,
but the countries will be shut down.
You're going to need the U.S. team for there to be interest in the United States. There's no about it because if everything's up in Canada and Sweden, Finland, I don't think there'll be a lot of interest. So the U.S. team has to do well.
All right, Mark, you mentioned the game Sunday.
But before we get into that,
yep.
The U.S. has a pretty solid roster, man.
Yeah, and actually what's different is the U.S. has some goaltending.
Yes.
So what's surprising, so for many years, the U.S. didn't have a lot of great goaltending. They got a lot of good goaltending, probably the deepest goaltending, I think.
And Canada doesn't.
Yeah, which is, a shock. So, Carey Price carried them for years, was just, boom, you just put that number on there, and you're good to go. And plus, he didn't get a lot of shots, but when he needed to make save, the guy made the save. And so they don't have that anymore. So, but also it gives opportunity for guys that are kind of trying to get into that kind of role as a player. And I think with any player, that was the greatest thing I think about the 1980 U.S. Olympic team is you had all these college kids and nobody heard them, but they got their chance. And probably the one time out of 50, they did it. And
50,
but that's what's so great about it.
Yep.
And some of these other goalies they'll be getting their first crack at it, and every once in a while somebody surprises you. They play out of their skin there for a couple weeks, and that's what they need to do.
Michael Ruzioni, you could argue, has lived his life based on 1 nanosecond of scoring the winning goal in the U.S.-Soviet Union game, and this won't be that, but the upset factor, but it should be phenomenal. Another game Mark brought up that a lot of us are going to watch on Sunday is a thing called the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Obviously, we have a football fan here, Mr. Howe. Not sure how big a football fan Mr. Marsh is, but we'll find out. Guys, you excited about this game? Mark?
Yeah, I just hope it's a good game. I know the funny thing about it, so my son-in-law is from Kansas City.
Oh.
And my daughter is, they both live out in Denver, and my daughter's a huge Eagles fan. So my youngest granddaughter, they bought their Saquon jerseys about 2 weeks ago. Actually, they went to the Flyers played out in Denver a couple days ago, so they went to the game there, and all the fans were going, yay, they're going, yay, Eagles. No, not Flyers, yay, Eagles. So for the game. But, but it's the funny dynamic in that house is that, you got the two of them now that are kind of going against each other. So my son-in-law is a pilot, so my daughter actually is hoping he gets called out on the weekend to has to be on the road. But it's great. It's a great story what Kansas City's doing. To me, it's going to come down if the Eagles can continue to run the ball like they have all year, and Saquon breaks a few, and it's great. And the thing I like about the Eagles this year is, and Brad and I talked about team all. It's team. I mean, Saquon he's been off the charts.
And when they rested in the last game, I argued that individual records don't mean anything unless they're within a team framework, right?
Yeah. So, but you look at the wide receivers, and with Brown and stuff. They're waiting. They want to win. They just want to win as a team, and when everybody buys in, just like when they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, everybody on that team bought in. And when you buy in, now you have a chance to win. If you got one or two parts that are going their own direction, normally when you get to this stage of the season, you're going to end up losing.
Well, you going to watch this from Brad?
Oh, yeah, I'll watch it. I'll have it on. I'm not a huge football fan. I just never really got into it. But how can you not help but watch it because of what the Eagles have done this year? I shouldn't say this year, for the last several years.
Yep.
It's going to be wonderful. I agree with Mark. I hope it's a good game. But on a side note, I wish they played the game the following weekend after Championship Sunday, because the hype in between the games is what just drives me crazy. I'm tired of all the blah 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 in between the game, because none of it means nothing to the game. It's all build up. Yep. But anyhow, it'll be good, and the whole, I don't know about the world, but all of North America will be tuned in, watching that game, and Super Bowl party somewhere, whether it's here at Chickies and Pete's or your neighbors or your house or whatever. It's a wonderful Sunday, and the NFL has just done a wonderful marketing job over the last 25 years of building that brand of the NFL.
One of the things the NFL does that's different than hockey, obviously, and basketball, baseball, is one game. You wake up on the wrong side of bed, that could be that. And it's happened to many, many teams and Super Bowls too. You guys play 7. We heard the greatest 2 words in sports, Game 7. If you could be the commissioner of hockey and then make all the rules, Brad, if you could say playoffs are one game or playoffs are best of 7, obviously it would materially change the way hockey's played. But in your mind, is a one-game playoff, is any merit to it whatsoever?
No, not in the sport of hockey. No, because it is what it is. It's playoffs, and our game's different, our makeup's different, and our sport's different, and playoffs are the playoffs, and it's the best of 7 or it's the best of 5. Or we played in an era where it was the best of 2 best of 3.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what playoffs are all about. I like the round robin play, or it's not really round robin, but you know what I mean. But football can't have that set up because of the makeup of their sport. And so once again, NFL's done a wonderful job marketing Sunday afternoon, and then it went to Monday night, then it was a Thursday night, and Sundays, they own Sunday.
Yeah. It's like the college football playoff got expanded this year, and it's hard for those teams to play. You have to win 4 games to win the title. But how ironic is it that the 4 teams that had to bye, they all lost?
Yep.
They just, because the playoffs are just different. You have training camp, and then once the regular season starts and you motor along, and once you hit about March, then everything ramps up again. Then once the playoffs start, it goes to a whole new level. And with every series you go, and then when you get to the finals, it's a whole other level that's just beyond what you can even comprehend. Well, so now I think what happened to college football, so now you got these 8 teams went at it, 4 teams that won. They're already in playoff mode. The other team, they fell behind every game. So But in football, that's too hard a sport to have the best of three even. I mean, because they go at it so hard.
They play all year.
And I know hockey, you go at it hard, but I like most everybody likes 7 games because generally on a 7-game series, the better team wins. And you don't want it because in a 2-3 game thing, a team gets, well, you look at Edmonton last year, they weren't even in it for 3 games, and all of a sudden, but then the true championship quality showed up in the first period of Game 7 for Florida. And so, but it took a while, because I tell people all the time, there's a fear factor to winning. And you could see Florida had that last year, like, oh my God, you're starting to think of the expectation rather than staying in the moment. And I think for Game 7 they got back in the moment. But in football it's just, I think it's too much to ask teams to play even best of 3.
Oh, absolutely. Football's got its stuff. Hockey will stay best of 7. It's great. Football, that's the great thing about sports. There's some differences, but both are a lot of fun to watch. Come back. We're going to talk some hockey again. The Flyers. What do they got to do tomorrow night? What they have to do to get their team ready for the trade deadline, for a potential playoff run? I'll ask Brad and Mark, what's the key for the Flyers to doing that on the Independence Blue Cross? On the ice, from here at Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, a bunch of people wanting to come up, come on up, or as Bob Barker would say, come on down, and we'll be right back after this.
Blow the whistle. Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. There's only one official sports bar of your Philadelphia Eagles, and that's Chickies and Pete's. Ready for the big game? Go where the players go. Don't wait. Reserve your table right now for the big game for all of our locations at chickiesandpete's.com. The best in-game experience anywhere. Be the MVP of your big game with Chickie and Pete's to-go catering. The Eagles are in the big game. Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
Every day, women like me go to the doctor for annual checkups for conditions like breast cancer. Early detection saved my life. But women with disabilities face a cruel reality: inaccessible medical facilities and equipment.
I went to a doctor's office I was told was accessible, but when I got there, I couldn't get through the front door.
Our veterans deserve better. Help PVA fight for access at pva.org.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
And we're back. Final segment from here at Chickies and Pete's. NHL's off next 2 weeks, but we won't be. We're here the 12th and the 19th, and we'll get you all the details on the website, WBC1490.com, about who we're going to have, where we're going to have them. We got Brad Marsh and Mark Howe now. And guys, you talk about the Super Bowl or the community that Philly gives its athletes and is for its athletes. People go to different games. Obviously, all the games played at the sports complex will continue to be. Mark, when you played, Did you go to Phillies games, Sixers games? Were you a fan of the other teams? Did a lot of people come to Flyer games? How tight is the community of athletes here in town?
I don't know. For me, I was busy raising 3 kids. It's hard to do, but I always went to a few Phillies games. Some of it was to watch the Phillies, but I remember I went to see Tony Gwynn. I said, I got to go see this guy. The guy hits 380, 390 every year. I got to go watch this. So I went and saw him. I had to go see the Dr. J play. So I'm not a big basketball fan, but I saw Bird, Jordan. You got to go see those guys one time.
Did they come to see you?
I doubt that. I highly doubt that. So, but no, actually the only game I hadn't been to was an Eagles. But I think most of the guys probably knew Ron Jaworski, but I think from doing a few things in the community, I got to meet some guys. But we're as busy with life, doing other things.
What about you, Brad? You get into any of the other sports at all?
No, I never really went to any of the sports. I remember it would have been in 85 or 86 we finally had a Sunday off, and a bunch of us did go to an Eagles game. That was my first ever NFL game that I went to, but it wasn't a burning desire for me. Oh, I got a day off, I got to go see the Eagles or the Sixers play. Ironically, quite often the Sixers would play Sunday afternoon, and the Flyers would play Sunday night at 7 o'clock. And so a lot of times I did see some of the game because I was always an early bird arriving for our game, so the Sixers game was still going on. So I'd always walk down the hallway there, and you see a few minutes, and it used to drive me crazy, the squeak of the running shoes on the floor. I felt like saying, pick your feet up there, guys. But no, I was hockey, all about hockey, and just as Howie said, I had four young kids at home, and so you had a day off. You weren't about to traipse off to see another pro team play.
Yeah, I know. So a couple times when we'd be playing out in L.A. and the Lakers would be getting ready for a game that night, so we'd get our uniform on, we'd bust to another rink. And I'd run out to see the guys on the court. I'll never forget, so Jabbar goes walking by. I was standing on the 3rd tier of seats. He walked by, and he was still taller than me. So the main thing, he reached over, because I always wonder how he could put his hand on the ball and just throw it around like my hand in a softball. And he'd go to pick up a ball on the ground, and his hand went halfway around the basketball.
Brad's got some of the biggest hands I've ever seen.
Not like those guys, though.
But I always appreciated, whether it be go see a concert, whether it be go see another sport. I go to watch certain people just to see how, like I said, like a Tony Gwynn, or because I wanted to go see Mike Schmidt play, because he was a all-time Philly great, and I go and I really enjoy watching people that are really good at what they do and how they achieve, and just appreciate the moment and those people, and I know the commitment that it takes for that. It's not just a lot of it's God-given, but the commitment to get to that level, it's something special to behold.
You guys both mentioned you're raising 4 kids in Brad's case, 3 in your case. You were raised by a guy, I hate to bring this up, but you sort of have to when you have Mark Howe on the show. Was a pretty good player himself. A lot of people went to see him. What was it like growing up with a father whose nickname was Mr. Hockey? I always say if your nickname has your sport in it, you must be doing a pretty good job of that. But what was it like both to become a player and take from your dad what you could, and to watch him growing up?
I've always said my mom raised me, and she raised us, the 4 kids in the house, because she did so much for all of us. My dad led by example, and so I went everywhere with my father. But you just sit and observe, and I saw how he was with people. I had the opportunity special opportunity to play 7 years with him on the same team and see how he conducted himself every day of practice. But what I appreciated most, my parents just let all 4, they let us grow up, make mistakes, do stupid things all on your own, and learn your own lessons. And the odd time you'd get a little tap on the shoulder and you need a little push, and okay, it's time to really learn this lesson. But my mom was a disciplinarian. My mom was the one that made sure that we were brought up the right way. And like I said, Dad was the living example of how to be as a human being.
All right, Brad, you grew up when Gordie Howe was playing played forever, obviously. A Canadian kid. I know you were a defenseman, but you had to look up to Gordie Howe. What was he as part of your life as a kid?
Well, we're playing road hockey. You're Gordie Howe half the time, and as I said many times, I grew up in London, Ontario, and our family, we were a Leaf family. In Canada, there was two teams, Montreal and Toronto. You loved one.
Were you Dave Keon or Frank Mahovlich?
No, Davey Keon was always big, and Davey Keon was always Bobby Bond and Alan Stanley. But being in London, a lot of Detroit fans. Bobby Bond.
Bobby Bond.
Who?
No D. Bobby Bond.
I've never heard of Bobby Bond. Who is he?
B-A-U-N.
Great defenseman for the Maple Leafs back in the 60s.
Oh my God, okay.
And but there's a lot of Detroit fans in London, Ontario. So a lot of fans would make the trek down to Detroit, watch the Red Wings in the old Olympia, and but road hockey, you were always somebody in the NHL, and Gordie Howe, and number 9. You just look at, I coached minor hockey a lot of years, and you hand out the numbers to the kids. What number you want to be? Well, back in the day, it was always number 9. Why? Because of Gordie Howe.
Yep, 99, 66, a lot of.
Saying what was different, like you think of your dad some way. I thought of my dad the same way. They're your father. I never once thought of my dad as being a great hockey player. And that's just really the fact.
But that's part of what makes you great, because.
But that's how the family is raised. He's your father. He's your role model, and it had nothing to do with what he did as a living. I've always said he's so much a better human being than he was a hockey player. Now, my idol growing up was Bobby Hall, so I had other idols around the league. I was in the locker room. I practiced with Alex Delvecchio, Norm Allman, and Bill Gadsby.
Your dad opened up the door to all these guys personally, right?
Yeah, but he's my father. These other people were the people that I looked up to as hockey players. They were hockey players to me. And Dad was Dad. And I tell people all the time, they say, what's it like to have Gordie Howe as a father? I said, well, did you love your father? Did you have a really good, caring father? I go, yeah. I go, that's who my dad is.
Well,
so it's simple.
Yeah, great way to put it. My dad's 94, and may he go on forever. And all our dads are our dads. And all our teams are our teams. And the Flyers, guys, 2 months till April, when the Stanley Cup playoffs start. What do the Flyers have to do to get there, Brad, other than win games, obviously?
Score goals. And, we've talked so many times about the goaltending. Urson especially, he's played well in the recent weeks. And I don't know what it is, man. They dried up, they're squeezing their sticks, all those old corny sayings and all that, but you can't win if you don't score goals. And we just have to score goals and stick with it. Will we get back in the hunt? I don't know. I hope so. As a former player and as a fan now, I hope they get back in the mix. But the decision, I guess, has to be made. If we're not going to get in the mix, then keep calling those youngsters up.
I think ideally, you want them to play meaningful games coming down the stretch. I mean, last year every game was meaningful. They had that long stint where they lost 8 or 9 or 10 or somewhere, and that really hurt them. And I was watching Detroit. So Detroit for 3-4 years, they'd kind of be in the hunt, and then when the games got really meaningful, like when I said around March, then the other teams rise, they didn't know how to rise, and that's why they would fall out of it. So Detroit last year was the first time they rose to the occasion, but the fall off they had from back in February is what hurt that team, and that's what hurt the Flyers last year. So you want the games to be meaningful.
All right, guys, we got about a minute left. I'm going to leverage that comment. You guys both played in the playoffs a lot. People say you give 100% every game, as hockey players do. But you said there's room for more in the playoffs and room for more as you go along in the playoffs. What's that like? If you're giving 100% already, Brad, how do you give more? I understand that you do, but is there any way to verbalize that?
It is hard. I don't know how to put it into words, but it is more. It's a different atmosphere altogether. And, Mark kind of broke it down, but all summer you can't wait for training camp to start. When camp starts, you can't wait for it to be over and the season starts. The season starts, okay, you can't wait for the playoffs. But it is, you take it to the next level, and I don't know what to put in words, but the
Yeah.
next level there,
Well,
it's just a tangible that's there, and that's why it's important to have winners in your dressing room that have experience because it just happens.
Yeah, and if you finish checks, maybe in the regular season you might not finish every one, but in the playoff, I guarantee you don't miss a one. If you're scoring goals, you're making sure, boom, that puck's on the corner. Everything is just, your mistakes are limited to 0.
And hopefully
That's
the Flyers,
the objective.
Flyers mistakes probably won't be limited to 0 the rest of the way, but hopefully they'll get back on the stick and make a playoff run. It's been a great show, guys. We love coming here to Chickies and Martin. Mark Howe, love having you every year, and best of success in your life. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks you. Enjoyed it. Thanks Brad.
Thanks, Mr. Marsh. We'll be back next week, right?
Right on.
Chris Erman produced this fine program. Stephen Lawler, whose house burned down last week. Best of luck to Stephen. He did a great job back at the station. For Brad Marsh and Mark Howe and Paul Jolovitz, the Independence Blue Cross on the ice from Chickies and Pete's and Marlton. Have a great week, everybody, and go Flyers!
You're listening to 1490 WBCB and on your FM dial at 107.3.